All right, it's my pleasure this morning to be joined with Adam Byrne from FMC. Adam, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do for FMC?
Sure. My name is Adam Byrne. I work for FMC. I'm the technical service manager for Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. I've been with FMC for about a year and a half, and basically product development, kind of support, sales support, agronomy support.
Perfect.
As well. Yeah.
So one of my favorite products that we work with comes from FMC, and that is the Xyway Fungicide. We've had a lot of luck getting this product to work in the field over the last 2-3 years that we've had it. Especially in a tar spot world, we're looking for options to extend out our grain fill period and promote plant health and disease risk within the crop. So can you talk a little bit about how Xyway works, why it's different than other fungicides, and how you've seen it work not only to benefit plant health, but also to help in a tar spot program?
Sure. So Xyway, the active ingredient is flutriafol, and the unique thing about flutriafol is it's long half-life and systemicity, so it moves through the plant really well. So it's an at-plant application, which is really novel from a corn production system. So you put it down at planting, and the roots are pulling it in season long. And so you go into the R3 time period, and you still have flutriafol translocated through that plant. So the inside-out protection is what's really unique. It does a great job with the foliar leaf diseases like gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight. You mentioned tar spot. From tar spot, it's not a tar spot silver bullet. It's not going to stop tar spot, but it gives you that healthier plant going into that tar spot season, where it can prolong that onset of tar spot and give you some flexibility in terms of management.
Yep, where I like to position it as, if we use Xyway to take care of our gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, especially gray leaf spot in the middle part of the year, if we can use that there and then take our one aerial shot and do that instead of rushing right out there at tassel, if we can put that on more at R1, R2 on brown silk corn, blister stage corn, that protects us longer into the grain fill period. Because every other fungicide but Xyway, I talk about getting that 2-3 weeks of maximum protection. Xyway is different in that regard, right?
Absolutely.
You talked about how it's available throughout the year, depending on our disease pressure, right? If we're in the northern part of Ohio, we could see benefit from it all year in terms of lower disease pressure, maintaining foliar health. But for my line is kind of roughly Route 30. If I'm south of 30 in Ohio, boy, it's going to be hard to hold back that gray leaf spot pressure. So using Xyway in kind of the southern 2/3 of the heritage geography as part of a 2-shot program, Xyway with the planter, and then followed by that R1, R2 aerial application. Or if you're north of 30, using the Xyway up front and then kind of scouting to see where your foliar disease risk. Does that make sense to you from how I should view these products?
Absolutely. From the northern perspective especially, and my territory up in Michigan is the same, I think you can be more flexible and act when tar spot moves into the system. So if tar spot's kind of slow and you're not sure, you pull the trigger that R2, R3 window and get that foliar protection if you're wishing to do so. The other thing Xyway does that I think is worth mentioning, by getting it in the plant early, you have protection against crown rot and some of the stalk rots, and then there's plant health benefits that go along with it in terms of more efficient water translocation or movement in the plant, nutrient uptake, and so on. So it gives you that extra push, in terms of plant health right from the get-go that some guys are targeting with foliar applications at that VT or even pre-VT stage, that now you're getting that planting. You don't necessarily have to go in at that time to do that.
So when we think about when to put Xyway on, let's talk about the traditional application timing. So with a planter, usually we want to see it off the row, so a 2x2 application. Wings of furrow jets, is that something that's okay in your book?
Yep, so our recommendation is anywhere from 1/2 inch to 4 inches, and actually we'll talk about up to 6 inches later with side dress, but 1/2 inch to 4 inches off the seed. So if you're going to go that close to the in-furrow application, the furrow jet would be the option with those lateral wings of the furrow jet where they kind of go into the wall of the furrow, but not the center nozzle. Because putting it on directly on the seed it can have some detriment in terms of stand emergence or consistent stand.
Right.
So anywhere else, 2x2 is probably the standard. There is options for like surface dribble. You could do a surface dribble if you wanted, or you could do wide drop or side dress later.
Gotcha. In terms of best practices when mixing and handling Xyway early in the year, we know that kind of these heavier materials, they can be a little challenging. So what are some things you would recommend for growers if they're taking this to the field in April? And
I think the first thing to do is make sure your jug is mixed thoroughly before you start pouring in the tank. Invert the case the day before, make sure it's settled, not just settled out the bottom. Get it mixed up, get it going. And then when you do get ready to pour it into the tank, fill it halfway with your fertilizer first, then pour the Xyway in, and then top off with the fertilizer. That helps agitate it as you go. Agitation is key. It's important to keep that mixed up as you're going, driving on the headlands and getting it moving. I think it'll stay in solution. But if you're sitting or you weather or have an equipment situation, you want to make sure you have some agitation before you get going. Don't let it settle.
Yeah, and the biggest problem we see is guys that if they mix too big a batch and they can use them that day and they don't have a way to re-agitate it before it goes to the field, that's really the only time we've seen big issues with it. So it's a really good product. Can be a little tricky to handle in the spring, but in my opinion, it's definitely one that is for sure worth it. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today, and I appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect.